All right, it's 8:30. Everyone's okay. We'll go ahead and get started. Do we have everybody? I didn't hear Commissioner Dingler. Is he on? He is. Okay, I don't see his picture. So, all right, if everybody's okay, we'll go ahead and get started. Obviously, on Monday night we'll have our public comment and normal call to order and invocation and pledge. The presentation, the proclamation, Commissioner Houston. I think you're going to read that. Is that right?
Hadn't heard, but I will.
Okay, well, great. Well, that was the notes I received. So you've been voluntold.
All right.
Does that sound okay?
That's okay.
Okay, great. And then moving on to our consent agenda, we've got items A through C. Any questions for Deborah, Chris, or John Young on any of those?
I'm good.
I just have one,
Go ahead.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Go ahead.
The 801-150 5C. This is in relation to those. Are those the poles that we were talking about that needed to be relocated?
Mr. Young, are you on?
I am absolutely on. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Loud and clear.
So actually, it is a change from the existing poles. There's all the poles have been relocated that were needed to be relocated. I told you about. What we found out on this, Commissioner West, was NCDOT actually requested a change from wood poles to metal poles between the 90% plans and the final plan set. So this is actually reflects that change from moving to the wood poles that are currently on those corners to a metal strand pole at the completion of the project.
Okay, we don't see it impacting the timeline on that project either, right?
No, actually, the project actually has got all their utility relocates in place, so the contractor is actually free to start back up anytime. I don't have an exact date. He was supposed to be starting this week back in there. He's actually got. Last time we met with him, I think he told me he was 80 days, I believe, is what their anticipated schedule is once they get started, assuming the weather's good, to be able to wrap that up. It's basically grading and adding asphalt at this point.
Good news. Thank you, Mr. Young.
You're welcome.
Great. Any other questions? A through C? If not, we'll move on. I'm sorry.
No, I'm good.
Okay. So we will move on to 5D, E, or F.
I'm good.
Anybody?
Good.
John Young, do you want to talk about the good news on F? Clarifying that?
Yeah, this is actually really good news. I think I mentioned this back when we approved the resurfacing change order for Maymead. So two things. Maymead is currently working. They're out. They've done several roads. Have done a very good job for us so far, especially in traffic control, which is one of our main issues. So I did give them that with a caveat that a lot of people are staying at home right now. Mary Catherine wasn't very happy with that. So anyway, we are working on, and I think I let commissioners know this last week, getting. This was John Fine's suggestion of going ahead and repaving Main Street with the current the amount of people that are currently there. Main Street was going to need to be repaved either way. We actually came in under budget on our bid. We were planning to do the change order anyway to add the budgeted money back into this contract. So John suggested we get a price from them to actually resurface Main Street. So I believe that's going to happen next week. I'm actually starting on Monday. Going to do some rerouting of traffic along Main Street. So he'll have one side open all the time, and we'll either route it over to Church Street or Broad, just depends on the way the traffic's flowing. And after that, we'll have new asphalt on Main, including new striping along that whole corridor. That won't take up all this money. I will tell you, we do have several other streets we're going to be adding in 300,000. That is a portion of it.
Right. Any questions for Mr. Young?
Mayor Pro Tem, me, please.
Yes, go ahead, Commissioner Compton.
Mr. Young, what block of North Main Street are you speaking of?
It actually is going to start at Iredell and go all the way to McClellan.
Wow. Okay, great. Okay, good. Thank you. Oh, by the way, I guess this may be a Ryan Race or John Finan issue here, but you would know. Does that mean if you're going to do that downtown area that these the crosswalks will be redone and they'll be put in like to make it look like brick or or striped somehow or put back in such a way where they'll be very noticeable to use?
Commissioner Coppin, we are working on that. Actually, the company that we used, which was actually the same company that Maymead used, was Oliver Paving, is no longer in business. So we put I just saw something come across yesterday. Miss Atkins actually helped us out. We did something on our oh gosh, I forgot what to call those. Basically a listserv, and we're looking for some other companies to do that. And I think we did get a response back yesterday, so we absolutely will have it. It may not be done next week. It may be something we work on, in the coming weeks or so, but it will absolutely happen like it shows now.
Very good. Thank you so much.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes, Commissioner Houston.
I have one question for John. Mine would be with the reconstruction on McClellan and detouring traffic on Broad. How are we going to assist with that heavy flow of traffic on Broad and Center when the light don't last about 3 seconds? We're going to back up some traffic in that area. With McClellan being worked on and Center will be probably closed and nobody's moving through those intersections.
Yeah, that is a great question, Commissioner. That's something we can look at. I hadn't really thought about it. It may be that we, instead of getting the traffic over onto Broad, which is probably not going to be the preference, it may be that we just reroute everything to Church Street, which functions a little bit better. But even if we do go to Broad, we may be able to adjust the timing on those signals a little bit. I have to talk with John and the folks in traffic and see if we can do that. But that is a great question.
Okay, because I know it's pretty short. I can be at McClellan and I can't make it to Center Street and it'd be done changed. So I just know a lot of traffic's traveling. It's not a lot as it used to be, but if you start detouring everybody coming down Main, especially early in the morning, we have a lot of traffic that we'll have some issues at some of those intersections. Just some clarity. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, sure. Well, that's a great question. I certainly will look into that. And we will have some boards put up as well. I think Maymead's going to put those up potentially either today or maybe a little bit later on the weekend, going ahead and letting people know that traffic will start to be rerouted. Again, it'll only be one direction. So it'll either be a northbound or a southbound reroute.
Okay.
Coming up next week.
All right. Thank you.
Commissioner Whittington, did you have a question? There you go. Now you're unmuted.
You can hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Culp Street is a heavily traveled street because of the schools out on Kistler Farm Road and Cottle Creek Road. Is it possible that we could let that be one of the ones you repave, or do you already have the ones in named that you're planning to redo?
Commissioner, let me go back and look at the list. I cannot remember which ones are on there. I've got a listing of them, and if you don't mind, we can certainly get back with you on that. I know Culp is
that is fine.
It's on there sometime.
Okay, thank you, John.
Any other questions?
I'm good.
If not, okay. If not, we'll move on to the last two items, G and H. G and H, any questions? Going once? Obviously not. Okay. And then obviously the rest of the agenda that everybody can see will have some closed session items and a manager's report. So with that, let's move on to our presentation from Tiffany.
Hey, Mayor Pro Tem, just
Yes,
one
sir.
thing that Commissioner Whittington and I were talking about in regards to Monday night's meeting, and I'm not sure if anything is planned or you or the mayor are going to discuss this, but Commissioner Whittington, you want to share with me or share with the board what you had shared with me?
I just thought that since it's the actual day that Jordan was killed, I thought we should have a moment of silence or something before the prayer, or at a time that the mayor or Mayor Pro Tem chooses to do it. I think we would probably feel bad if we didn't do that.
Yeah, it looks like from Ms. Sellers that there is something planned for that will be part of the agenda.
Great.
Perfect.
Great. Thank you.
Great. Thanks.
Great. Any other questions before we have Tiffany start on her presentation? If none, Tiffany, the floor is yours.
Thank
Or
you,
the
Mayor.
airwaves.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I wanted to provide you all with an update on the Diversity Advisory Committee and the strategic plan that the committee developed. I'd be happy to share the full plan with you after this meeting if you're interested in seeing it. So from September to February, the Diversity Advisory Committee convened 5 times over that period of time to first kind of define what we were going to do as a committee, define the goals and the role of the committee, and then start some work on developing that strategic plan. The Diversity Advisory Committee is comprised of members of staff from all levels of the organization, staff from senior management team, and non-management staff as well. Move to the next slide. Thank you. So, as I mentioned, we needed to define our goals and our roles, but before we did that, we needed to define for ourselves what diversity, inclusion, belonging, and equity were, because these are the definitions that will help us drive and define what our goals are. We broke up into subcommittees to create these definitions and came back together as a larger committee to review, fine-tune, and improve them. This is the definition of diversity. Diversity refers to our collective differences. It is what makes us all unique. Diversity encompasses all aspects of the human experience, and it's a key driver of our vitality and innovation. Okay. Inclusion is the continuous act of acknowledging, accepting, and respecting our diversity. Inclusion ensures that our differences and similarities are fully interwoven into who we are as an organization, and it's the conscious effort to ensure that all of our staff are represented at the cultural, institutional, interpersonal, and personal levels. Okay. Belonging, we felt, is achieved when the organization's employees feel psychologically safe to be their authentic selves without fear of judgment. It occurs at the individual level when each staff member feels valued, understood, and appreciated for who they are. Okay. And equity. Equity wasn't initially a part of the plan, but upon further discussion with our consultants and internally at the committee, we decided that it was a much needed component. So equity is the guarantee of fair treatment, access, opportunity, and advancement of all staff, while at the same time striving to identify and eliminate barriers that prevented those individuals or some individuals from full participation. And we had a lot of internal dialogue around the differences between equity and equality and understanding what the difference is. And so we felt that illustration on the previous slide helps to give a clearer understanding of what is meant by equity. So removing barriers, it's figuring out what's hindering people from equal opportunity. Okay. So now that we had those definitions, our next step was to craft our diversity statement. This statement is the meshing of both the goals of the Diversity Advisory Committee and the town's overall mission and vision. We envision displaying this statement prominently in various locations, both in virtual and physical spaces. So whether that's online on our website and in town buildings. The statement is that diversity, inclusion, belonging, and equity are integral to the vision, mission, and values of the town of Mooresville. We are responsible public servants who are accountable to our citizens and each other. We are a dedicated team serving with pride, integrity, and commitment. In pursuit of our mission to enhance the quality of life for all citizens by providing high-quality municipal services and directing well-planned growth and development, the town actively seeks to attract and retain staff from diverse backgrounds and life experiences. We believe that diversity among our staff strengthens us, stimulates creativity, promotes the exchange of ideas, and enriches our organization. So these are some of the highlights specifically from the strategic plan. These are our goals and some of the corresponding objectives. So the first goal is around communication. And our goal is to utilize internal and external communication tools to improve the flow and dissemination of information regarding the town's diversity statement. And part of that objective is to enhance the communication to demonstrate the town's commitment to diversity, inclusion, belonging, and equity. So as I mentioned previously, we want to publish the town's diversity statement in accessible and visible spaces. We want to highlight individuals and groups within the town that show commitment to diversity, inclusion, belonging, and equity. We know that some departments already celebrate, cultural differences and awareness and diversity efforts. So we want to make sure we highlight those. And we want to make sure that all town communication materials and collateral regarding whether that's employment recruitment materials, town website, interior design, and public spaces accurately reflect the diversity of the town of Mooresville, as well as engage town employees in diversity advisory committee activity. The second goal is around recruitment and retention. And this goal has several objectives. We want to improve recruitment and retention of employees to reflect the changing demographics and needs of the community. We want to develop and improve programs and policies that affect retention and develop an institutional culture that fosters and promotes personal and professional development. This goal really stems to look overall at all of our hiring, promotion, and retention policies and practices to ensure that we are attracting diverse candidates, advertising in spaces where diverse candidates will look for jobs, getting our organization in front of a diverse group of individuals. We want to highlight and publicize efforts to grow diversity within our workforce, continue to strengthen and establish programs with local high schools, community colleges, universities, and other programs and organizations as well. We also want to review, evaluate, and provide recommended changes to our institutional policies and procedures that impact employees from various cultural, religious, and personal backgrounds. So just taking a look at everything that we do within the organization through a more holistic lens with a focus on diversity, inclusion, and belonging. Okay. Our last goal is around education and engagement. We want to engage and educate town employees on the issues of diversity, inclusion, belonging, and equity, develop educational opportunities to increase employee knowledge and achieve a diverse and inclusive climate, and promote teamwork and cross-departmental collaboration. So this is obviously the training component. We want to make sure that we have a training that is applicable to employees at all levels regarding diversity efforts, inclusion efforts, belonging efforts, and equity. But we also felt that there was a need to increase cross-departmental collaboration and provide opportunity to employees within town to become more aware of opportunities that exist within other departments or other types of roles. A part of how we're going to start to do some of that was through the town job fair. That was originally scheduled for April 30th. And while that was open to the public, it was also an opportunity for employees to come in and talk one-on-one with representatives from other departments to hear about opportunities and to really get a sense of what other opportunities might exist within the town. We'll hopefully plan to reschedule that sooner rather than later, hopefully, once all this COVID stuff passes. We also want to develop and implement team building programs within and across departments and review and improve departmental and town-wide employee recognition programs. Okay. So we'll measure our performance in several ways. We'll administer an employee climate survey in the second year of our strategic plan. So once we've actually rolled this out and started the implementation phase of this plan, and then every 3 years thereafter. We'll collect metrics across several data points, such as diversity in hiring, diversity in promotions, diversity in posting sources, retention rate, etc. And we'll establish learning outcomes and assessments for diversity-related training. In addition to that, we'll continually assess and reassess our progress to determine if we need to make adjustments in our path along the way. Okay. So as I believe you're all aware, we are no longer working with Vision Inc. And we have put out an RFP to work with a new vendor, and hopefully we'll have one here shortly. The RFP deadline is May 19th, so I'm hoping to have a few responses then to be able to go through the process of selecting a new vendor, which will help us with the implementation phase of our strategic plan, which I hope to kick off sometime in the August or September timeframe of this year. Okay. Does anyone have any questions for me?
I would just like to add one thing if I could, and that is that this is a priority for me as a manager to make sure that everybody that's part of our team feels valued and is treated equally, and I am committed to it. And we're going to work on this department by department and as a town as a whole. And it's something that we're going to instill in everybody that if they want to work for us, they've got to be on board with this concept.
Right. Anyone have any questions for Tiffany or Randy? Comments? I thought the illustration.
Sounds good.
Yeah, the illustration, Tiffany, on the equity is spot on. I think that was great.
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem, I have a comment, please.
Yes, Commissioner Compton.
Thank you. Tiffany, great job. Thank you. And I agree, Mr. Heeman, something we need to dive into. So as your job as manager, I'm glad you and Tiffany implementing this. Two things that really jumped out at me was on goal number 2, to improve recruitment and retention. I think Commissioner Thurman Houston will agree with me on that. We've talked about that off and on for quite a while, for years, on the recruitment and retention of our employees. We have some good employees. However, the key there is going to be to educate, which goes to goal number 3, educate the employees on the issues of diversity, inclusion, belonging, and equity. So I think in bringing those two together, we have some good people. And I'm always, as everybody on this video thing here knows, I'm a big on succession planning. If you have somebody capable of moving up to that level, then that's where goal number 2 and their education for goal number 3 and learning this is going to make them a better employee to move up to where they need to be. And I use an example. I don't need to put her on the spot, but Tiffany on what, when she was hired and what she's done thus far and where she's at right now as our director of human resource. That's just the quickest example I could come to. So I think it's a great program and it's something good for our employees to get into. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. If not, anyone have any questions for any of the other staff persons at the meeting here today?
No, I'm good.
No. If not, then we will wrap up our agenda briefing and we'll see everybody kind of like the Brady Bunch again on Monday. Everybody have a safe day, a great weekend, and a happy May Day.
So we're doing all this again Monday night, just like this?
Yes. Is that correct,
Okay.
Genevieve?
Wow.
I think we can have some folks here Monday night, but we'll need to talk more about that.
Okay. This worked well. This worked well. I was just wondering.
Need to talk with Sharon, and I will add something real quickly that staff has brought to my attention, that there is some legislation that's working its way through that would allow and encourage complete virtual meetings like this and takes into account the requirements for even quasi judicial hearings. So we'll keep you apprised of that as it comes along. And Sharon and Jen and I will be having some more conversation about Monday night, but we'll let you know ASAP.
Okay, so stay tuned.
Thank you.
All right. If there's nothing else, we will stand adjourned. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah.